Welcome back to another Pixel Game Maker tutorial. Today is a combined Patron request from Nikita and Chaos. Nikita wanted to see more about top view jumping in Pixel Game Maker, and Chaos wanted to see how to swim with transparent water. So with that said, let's get started. Alright, so here we are in the sample project. As always, link will be in the pinned comment below. And if we playtest here, we can see that there's a few things that we get in this project. The first being that you can just move around like normal. You can press space to jump. Now, I didn't have a 4-directional jump, so I just am using 1-directional jump. That's why he has one look to it. But you can see that the shadow also kind of shrinks and then grows back as the jump happens. You can climb, and it has its own animation. And then you can get on ledges. You can even jump off ledges. You can fall off holes. You can also jump and make it on the other side if you want. You can say jump in the water. And again, this was just one direction that I had, but you can see that the body looks like it's underneath the water, but the head looks like it's, on top of the water. All right, then you can get out of water. And basically that is what this sample is showcasing. All right, so there's a lot to unpack in this video. I hope it all makes sense by the end. But basically there are 3 key things that you need for fluid top view movement. And what I mean by movement is just jumping, falling, swimming, everything like that, climbing, stuff like that. And the key elements are 1, how your tiles are arranged, 2, how your animations are set up, and then 3, how your logic is set up in your objects. All right. So let's look at tiles real quick because you'll start seeing what I mean. So in the swimming section, for instance, you can see that I'm using these swimming tiles. Now, how I make them look transparent, because remember, if we playtest, you can see that they're transparent and you can see the ground, is I just selected them all and I just started using this opacity here. Now, these tiles are set up wrong anyway. And what I mean by that is these tiles right here, this corner tiles, and then all the edges basically are set up wrong for how you want your swimming to look. And I'll show you why in just a second. But yeah, basically I made all the swimming things a little transparent, and you can see that it doesn't really show it well in the editor, but you can see the more transparent you go, it actually shows it well in the gameplay. So don't worry how it's looking in the editor. It's going to show perfectly fine in the playtest. All right. The next thing to understand is to have the area detection set up. So you need to check this and add an area detection right here and make sure for swimming purposes, when overlaps tile, that's usually the best one. Now, what overlaps, what actually triggers this? It's going to be your animation, your center, which is this red dot. And when you're making top view movement, and especially falling, you're going to want the center where the origin is, or else it's going to be hard to gauge where your last XY was when you respawn from like a fall, for instance. If you have the center anywhere else, it's going to mess up your calculation on where to put the player again when he respawns. Now, this video doesn't show respawning as far as like a actual setup. I'm using kind of a hack to do it, but maybe in a later video I can show that specific mechanic as well. All right, so going back to tiles, that's kind of the gist of it. So you can see that in the scene, I used some transparency right here. And then if I click off here, so that I put it on this below layer, then on the ground and the holes, you can see that I put a solid ground. So that way the transparency doesn't look like it's transparent on the ground portion of it, just the water. And then you can see that I added some of these other tiles like this that would make it look like it was like a bank of a underwater area. All right. Now, this is just my pixel art skills. I'm sure it would look a lot better if you guys did it, but you can see how it kind of gave that perspective that these other cliffs and climbing mountains are giving off. It just looks like it's underground. Probably want to have it like, edge off right here so it looks like it's a full thing. Now, here's what I'll say about this particular setup when you have a transparent, basically bottom half of the player is I would not mess with diving in this perspective, because if you're down here and you dive, you might clip into this area. And so, yeah, I would not do necessarily diving, but swimming should be just fine using a setup like this. All right. So now let me show you what I meant by this is kind of the wrong setup for swimming, actual swimming mechanic in PGM. And the reason why, and I'm in GIMP right now, the reason why is you actually want your edges. So you can see that I have my grid set up right here for 24 by 24. You actually want your water at the very edge of the things, of the grid lines. So in this particular case, I wouldn't even want this. I would want this. So I would replace this. Whoops. I would replace this water on these corners. Now, this is going to look very sloppy, but again, I'm not a pixel artist. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this. We're going to bring this in, and we want the water, and it could be kind of like, you know, out a little bit, but you're going to want to just play around with it. And then you're going to copy that, move that over there, move that over there, kind of a thing. And the reason I didn't do this for this project was because I just don't know how to mold these or meld these things together. But I think you're kind of understanding the gist. And then what I would want to do is do something like this, where I can grab it, and this would be the corner. And then this would be, you know, this. And then we would work on this, where we would bring it in. Hope this is not boring, you guys. And then it would look like that. Yeah, something like that. And then I believe what we could do, maybe I'm not totally useless here. Let me fill these in though, is we could actually, what I would need to do is this, put it right here. I could probably grab all of this, copy it, paste it, flip it, and do something like that. And then you would just want to, like, you know, make these edges like this, and then you could copy this edge. I'm actually doing it. This is crazy. So something like that, copy paste, move it over here. That. So yeah, that's exactly what you would want to do. You'd want to make something like this be your area detection, because that's how you're going to get the most accurate area detection. And then from there, let's say that it's not accurate on one side, you can just bring this up to the point where it does look accurate. So I'm glad I'm making this video, because I've never really shown what's required tile-wise for good area detection. So you can see that these fall ones are actually set up pretty decent. I haven't been disappointed with how these fall ones are set up. Even these edges right here, they're pretty close. What I would probably do is I would probably move these in a little bit like that. That would be the only real change maybe that I make. Because that way you're giving a little leeway to the actual fall. So I'd probably bring that in like that. And then on these corners, I would just bring out like that. So that's what I would change for that, for instance. And then the other ones are like the climbing right here. These ones are all pretty good, actually. The only thing that I would probably change on these is I would bring this lower. Yeah, something like, or maybe right there is fine. Anyway, I think you get the gist now of how you would need to play with tiles to get them in the right position, and what you should be expecting to do. All right, so the next area let's go to is animations. So I've already kind of talked about this, but the center, you need the center to be crystal clear on every direction, every motion, everything. All right, that is the key, is to have the center and the origin the same. And that's really it as far as animations go. But I guess while I'm here is you're going to want a weighting and a moving of each type. So for instance, you know, I have the normal idle, and then I have the idle move. So the idle weight, the idle move. We have the climb weight, and then we have the climb move right here. So if we play this, just kind of plays. Swim weight, swim move. So you can see I just made it faster. That was all I did. And notice the position that I did with swimming versus idle. So in idle, the head's actually up more, and then watch, I go down to swim weight, and the head is actually down. That's how another way that you can get that look like you just went in the water. All right. But it's also another reason you need to be careful about, say, doing a diving in this sense, because you're also working with a very lower animation. All right. Now, if you did the animation where you could just make it look like here and make it look like it's shrinking, but it really only goes this low, then maybe that would work. So there could be some tricks for diving, but I'm going to show you diving in a separate project. All right. And then we have our jump. Now, the key to jump, and I showed this on the last one, is that you want the frames to be on the sprite sheet itself of it rising in the air. Just like this. And notice that I did a jump and then I did a fall. Now, I prefer this setup because just like a platformer, you're going to have different logic that you would be doing on a fall versus a jump. And this way, if we go to, whoops, I added one. I didn't need that. If we go to jump, you can see that I have jump and then I have fall. And so I could do multiple different things with fall if I need to. All right. Another thing that I want to show too is that you can see that as I start peaking to the jump, my frame just gets slightly longer until I get to the height. This is the max height of the jump, and I wait for like 6 frames. That gives it that like excel and then back to starting to fall. So it gives it that like slow little hop. And I don't know if you can really see it much because it's only 6 frames. But you can see that he's just kind of in the air for a little longer before he starts to fall. And I do the same in the fall, or maybe I don't. Nope, I just do the one frame, but I follow that pattern back down. And you'll notice that what this allows is it allows the wall detection to be the same, which is very important. It allows the center to be the same, the origin to be the same. You're basically tricking the players in thinking they're jumping when they're really in the same spot. It's just an animation. All right. And then this also allows for a connection point, in this case, a shadow point. All right, so real quick, I wanted to show you how I got this swim looking area on the player sprite. I did it real quick through an edit in GIMP here. And so the first thing that I do, this is going to be real quick and dirty. It's not going to look professional, but honestly, this was pretty quick and dirty too, and it looked all right. So anyway, what I do is I right click and I click duplicate layers, and then I right click and click add mask. The white full opacity is fine. I make sure that the mask is selected. You can see that you can click on and off of it. And then you go over here, grab your pencil, make sure that it's black, that you're using a pixel, and then whatever size that you want. I can make it higher, I guess. And then we can zoom in, and you just want to start painting on all the areas that you do not want the color to take effect on. So we'll go something like that. You can see that it's kind of drawing something. You might not be able to see it on the video, but you can see there's a little bit of black. I'm sure if the image, the sprite sheet was smaller, you would see it. And then now what we can do is we can click on the actual layer, go to color, colorize, and then have this new color. So you can see that it just applied it really nice. And I click OK now. And then I go over here. And the only thing that I really have to do is remove the shadow, because the shadow doesn't make sense to have on the thing here. And then there's a couple ways to get this out. So basically what I'd have to do is go here, and then I would cut the shadow right there, and then boom, now you're set up for a swimming. And so really that's all there is to know about animations. All right, so let me set this up. I like to close this check player. It gives me a lot more room. And then let's just move this over. All right. So the first thing is I have an init right here. And this is just, it's saving. This is how I'm real quickly doing the fall mechanic. So the fall and respawn mechanic, okay? This is not how I would do it in a game. And like I said, a next video, I will try to get that out there on how I would actually do an XY respawn. But for right now, this init's just saving the file so that when I actually fall after a certain amount of time, it loads the file again. That's how I'm doing the quick respawn, okay? So don't do that in a real game. wait for my next video on that. All right, so this is just a general setup where I usually have like my idle wait and then my idle move, and then everything else is basically based off of that. And that's a typical setup, you know, for especially a Zelda-like that I've done. And you can see that in this wait state, I have the shadow, it's turned on. That's important because some things you won't want a shadow on. And so just real quickly, you can see that I have a shadow. You can see that it's set up to this shadow switch. It's using the shadow connection point. And then the shadow switch is turned on by default, even though it doesn't matter because idle turns it on anyway. All right. So now if you press a certain button, you're going to jump. When you jump, the shadow turns on. Now, the reason why it turns on is because you can jump from swimming. And in swimming, you don't show a shadow. You can see that shadow is off. So I needed to add it in jump as well because you can do that, you know. And then after the motion place till the end, because we're not using peak height as a condition, we just need it to where when the animation is done, it goes instantly into fall. And then when it's finished showing the motion, you go to idle. All right. Now let's go. Now this is important because you might think, hey, but don't I need to link fall to the pitfall? Or don't I need to link fall to the swim? And that's not necessarily true because idle can take care of itself. So if you're falling and you land, that's when you can actually judge where your next state's going to be. And so if you're swimming, it's going to instantly go into swimming. And that's what it does right now. So for instance, if I go and I jump and go in the water, you can see there's not even a wait. Like you can't even see him go into idle. He goes straight into swimming. And that's because he went into fall. When he landed, this was kind of the gauge on where area detection is. And you can see that a lot of these links are if area detection equals 2, then it goes straight into swimming. If area detection on this climb here, if it equals 3, then you go straight to climbing. And then you can see these are the outlinks as well. If you're not in area detection 2, you go to wait. Same with the move. And then if you're not in area detection 3, you go to wait, stuff like that. And let me just show you real quick, since I forgot to mention this, I believe it was these ones. Yeah, so these ones I just assigned to area detection 3. These are how you climb. So you can see I just did that on these bases. All right, so back here. So you can see that the swim idle or the swim wait, I just used that. Then I got the swim move. Then I got the climb wait. And right here, we also wanted the shadow off. And then I got the climb move. All right, very easy to understand. And then on this one, if the area detection equals 1, which I must have forgot to show that as well. So if you got a hole here, let's see, which one did I use? Maybe I must have used a pitfall here. Yeah, I did. So basically what I did was area detection. You can see that I used the pitfall right here. And so it was right here. Now, I didn't need to do this. I could have used it in this area right here, but I just wanted to show that you can also use just an area detection that is not the tile if you want. So right here, I just simply made this area detection 1 and I plopped them in a layer that you'll never see when the game is running because it's the farmost right. All right, and so that's how that works. That's how you go to pitfall. And then you can see that how I have the player go below this area. So when you jump, you can see that I go below this tile. And how that's working is that I move layer. So I move layer. Now, if you use my new move layer plugin, you can actually move 1 layer plus, or you can move to the very last layer, or however that would work. So it gives you a little more options. But anyway, so you would move layer and then instantly go to move object downward. So you move underneath that, wait a little bit, and then I respawn. So that's how that works. And so really the object's really simple, but I like having it organized like this. And my biggest advice is trust the idle. Trust the idle that it will transition from like fall. When you land, it will transition properly into its next state and it will look fine. All right, so now real quick, I wanted to show you how to do a dive. So if you're swimming right here and then you press space, you can see that I dive. And you could make it even stand still if you wanted, but you can also make it to where the player can move and know where it's at and stuff like this. So real quick, how I do that is this is the free sample top view swimming or something like that, or swimming pack or something like that. Me and Noob K worked on a little bit ago. And you can see that I have the swim idle, the swim move, and then here is the dive. So the dive is going to be on an action pressed, or input pressed, I mean. And then after so much time, it's going to go back to idle. And then it needs the same condition on exiting that the swim move does, because you can leave technically in this one. You can see that I just changed it to where it's a little slower movement than when you're just normally moving. All right. So real quickly, I just added an animation, just real quick edits. And that's all it really took to do diving. So you could add mechanic specific stuff where you could have like little pockets. Let's go back to here. You could have like little pockets right here. And so when you're in here and you dive and you go over that pocket, that's when it actually triggers. Otherwise, it wouldn't trigger if you were just on the water like this. And so yeah, that's real quick how to do diving. And this is honestly how I would do it, where the water, when it's not transparent like this, it's just so much more clear to dive like that versus having to do it while the water's transparent. You could. I would definitely want to be more in control. I probably wouldn't let the player move around when you're diving like that. So basically a quick dive to grab something and then go back up. So yeah, there was a lot of information in this video. Hopefully it all makes sense by the end. If you have any questions, comments below. Steam Forums Discord will get you figured out. That said, I'll see you at the next video.